One of the things that was said to me in my journey is, what's the difference between a happy dad and a healthy dad? I think as a community, we need to support men's mental health, to support your future, to support your culture, to keep it all connected. I think that's what it is to be a healthy man. Being the leader in this program, I've had to become vulnerable because that's what I'm asking men to do.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Voices of Resilience podcast. Today we have the pleasure of sitting down with a good friend of mine and a mentor, Dominic Hill. Dominic is a passionate advocate for both men's and youth mental wellness in the Rocky Mountain area. Dominic saw something in me that I didn't see at the time, and he created a huge catalyst for me to pursue what I am doing for a living now. I'm so excited to be using this platform to be sharing his experience, his stories, and what he's doing for the community. How's your weekend going?
My weekend's going great. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me here and giving me the opportunity to sort of share some of my journeys, some of my goals, some of my passion to this community, to society. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming down, man. I appreciate you taking the time and everything. And I know you have a crazy busy schedule with everything you got going on, like balancing everything that you're doing for the community with work, and then like balancing your family life at home and stuff. You got a lot of extracurricular activities, which is awesome to see. But
it's the topic today is healthy masculinity and men in the community, and it's another job, right? It's all about balancing the positive things in your life and what really means a lot to you. And for me, that's my family and their mental well-being. So sometimes I get frustrated and overwhelmed, but I just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Well, and that's exactly that's this type of work too, right? Like it's there's a lot of energy that's coming through from day to day with other people's stories and stuff like that. And it's if you don't have your own coping mechanisms down, if you don't have your own ways to deal with that energy and to help you fluff it off your shoulders, it can get a lot, right? So it really it's a big healing journey on the facilitators end too, to deal with all that stuff outside of what goes on in the community and stuff, right? So I'd love to just jump right into it. If you'd like to share a little bit about your background leading up to this point, what chose you to do the work that you want to do, and a little bit of what led you to the journey of obtaining your Indigenous identity.
Yeah, so originally I was born and raised in a place called Digby, Nova Scotia. And my mom is a Eastern Woodland Métis, and my dad is an African Canadian male from Bear River. And I was born in sort of an environment of identifying as Black my entire life in the community of Nova Scotia. I've been working in the human service industry for over 25 years, right? I worked with young males aged 12 to 18. The transition into adulthood and high-risk youth was the majority of my career. And that's kind of where it brought me to where I am today. Mm-hmm. Just working with kids, and I wanted them to have, I always said to myself, I wanted them to have the childhood that I have. I've got 6 siblings. I've got parents that were married for 50 years, my grandparents that were married for 65 years. And that was always sort of my self-talk to myself, that the kids that I work with to have a childhood that they deserve. Mm-hmm. And, this whole conversation ultimately resolves around one word, which is trauma. And how that brought me to where I am today is just meeting people in my journey and giving me the opportunity to actually work with parents and actually work with men directly, and to be a role model for them, and to see and to show how hard it is to be a healthy dad, right? One of the things that was said to me in my journey is, what's the difference between a happy dad and a healthy dad? And to be able to continue to ask yourself that question is to have that continued balance in your life in regards to spirituality, in regards to the mental capacity, your emotionals, and your physical well-being as well, and how it plays a huge role to continue to strive for that balance. And I think that that's where, that focus has brought me to where I'm at today.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. Secondly, what you just touched on with the balance of all four, like that comes right back down to our medicine wheel teaching, right? And I think from my own journey and looking into what that really means to me, I think the most important part of that wheel is the spiritual aspect, right? And that's where your why comes from. And I've heard from you from just about every event that you've done, every retreat that we've done out in this area here, just asking the men that are out here, the other people that are out here, like what their moment is, right? And that's what your why is. And if you can find what your why is, everything else starts to make more sense, right? But a lot of people have struggles with what that spiritual aspect is. Like, what kind of routines do I build for that sort of thing, right? Yeah.
I've read lots of different motivational sayings and listened to lots of different motivational sayings as early as just yesterday in regards to understanding the difference between a goal and an outcome. And I've learned to ask people what the outcome is they want for some of the changes in their life, and to let them recognize through their words the difference of a goal. And I think that plays a huge role in regards to there's going to be several goals to get to an outcome, and allowing people to choose that as opposed to putting it in their life. When you work with individuals and you provide a person-centered treatment or a person-centered focus towards them, allow them to recognize their own journey. I don't want to give anybody in sort of direction of a journey that they don't want in their own lives, right? Mm-hmm. I also think it's important to understand the context of why we're here and where we are in regards to having such a natural therapeutic environment to put people in. Plays a magnificent role in a sense of healing for people.
Well, it's all about creating that safer space for people, right? And not just like I think wording is really important when it comes to these types of things, especially with tackling the healing that needs to be done when it comes to trauma. There's all sorts of different types of trauma, and then in that alone, like generational trauma, for instance, that can affect all sorts of people in such different ways, right? It can manifest in such crazy different ways. So I think leading those healing journeys with people is the most important thing, just like you said, is to not have those expectations moving forward, right? When you set those expectations on someone on where they're supposed to be, that immediately sets them up for failure, right? So
when you talk about failure, I go back to saying from Denzel Washington that I've learned, right? And it says, dreams without goals are just dreams, which ultimately, fuel disappointment.
Yep.
So you have to set, as minimal as objectives, and then goals, and then dreams. And to reach those dreams, you have to set goals in your life.
Yeah.
Whether it be 1 day, 3 days, 30 days, 3 years, whatever it is, but everyone should always have goals to look to achieve their outcome of what they want as a healthy person, healthy family, healthy life. And ultimately, that's my outcome, is to provide that to the community that I reside in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So touching on, you mentioned your seven reasons why, and that immediately threw me back into another sacred teaching, which is our 7 sacred teachings, right?
Yes.
The 7 grandfather teachings. I want to pull this conversation into the importance that going back to your culture and how that connects with land-based teachings.
Yeah, so I'm a visitor here in the Treaty 6 land, being from Nova Scotia. And since I've moved to Alberta, I've been here about 19 years. Um, in the last 4 years, 5 years, I've met people in my circle that allowed me to investigate. It allowed me to just do more research about my culture, just learn more about my culture, about the Indigenous culture. And, you know, being raised, identifying as a Black male where I'm from, this, you know, now living in Alberta has given me the opportunity to do that. You know, my mom has had her status in the past, and I've had my status card in the past as well. And the fact is, I'm so excited to learn more about my culture and the things that, and the people that are in my circle and what they've taught me, and how important it is for the Indigenous men to stay connected to their culture, and how important it is for Indigenous men and youth to practice their healing through Indigenous ways. Getting the guidance from elders is important, and having those sessions of storytelling, and having those conversations with elders in regards to their perspective of what youth need, Indigenous youth need, to be successful with their mental wellness.
Yeah, well, storytelling has been an innate skill of Indigenous people that has been ripped away from us through colonization, through what happened during the 60s scoop, like to the importance behind pulling ourselves back to teaching our youth, teaching our men, teaching anyone who is wanting to come back to this culture through the ways of storytelling, rather than just telling them like, hey, this is what you need to do, this, and this, right? And then it comes down again to setting the difference between setting expectations on someone's healing and just giving them the tools that they need for how they view what they need to do and going forward, right?
You know, some of the campaigns that the Indigenous culture promotes when it comes to Truth and Reconciliation Day, and when it comes to murdered and missing Indigenous women, when it comes to residential schools in the 60s scoop, it's there's a lot of passion there, and I love the passion from that Indigenous culture of continuing to promote these campaigns worldwide, and how important it is. And it's such a big part of Truth and Reconciliation. People understand what the Indigenous culture went through, you know, what our grandparents and our great-grandparents, you know, went through. And that's part of Truth and Reconciliation, is getting non-status or non-Indigenous peoples to understand the effects of what they went through. And how to have an understanding of what intergenerational trauma is. And for me, you know, I love walking side by side with them to promote that campaign. And then we do that through 4 elements. We do that. One of the big things is that we promote is anti-violence against Indigenous women and children in our men's group. And I think having men involved and having men speak up in regards to those campaigns is so hugely important. And it's going to play, I think, a pretty big role in making change on domestic violence or gender-based violence against Indigenous women and children as well.
Yeah, let's open up the conversation a little bit about the exactly what these different sort of community events that you're a part of out here, like what do you guys end up doing, and like what the importance of why we're doing even this interview in this building, right? There's a lot of energy out here that you guys have spearheaded and cultivating for the idea of truth and reconciliation, for the idea of creating a healthier space for people to deal with that intergenerational trauma, right?
I was so lucky to find the land that we're on.
Yeah.
I was so lucky to find this actual land where fur trading was done between the Indigenous and between the Western European men, the fur trading industry. And I think that, you know, this land that we're on and that we host our retreats on plays a huge role in regards to having a therapeutic nature, being connected with Mother Earth, being connected with your Creator as well. Having this park stand behind you in regards to what you're trying to get people to connect with, and not just having a healthy lifestyle, but keeping them connected with their culture. Having youth involved with some of these 4 elements retreats, seeing what a positive social circle looks like, seeing how important it is to have mindful and be mindful and respectful to people in your circle, is going to go a long way for these youth in our future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there's from so many different avenues. This what you guys have been doing out here and the energy that is just out on this land has helped so many different people in so many different ways. Even the fact that there is such a support from the historic site out here and the staff out here shows a sense of community, right? And especially when it comes to healing from intergenerational trauma, it takes a lot more than just the one person, right? It takes the whole community to do it, and this is such an amazing spearhead to showcase that, right?
Yeah, and I think, excuse me, given the opportunity to be able to express this on a broader sort of audience, is I'm very grateful for that opportunity. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes.
Excited to see where this goes. So let's. I'd like to pull the conversation back to your perspective of the Indigenous men, Indigenous masculinity, men healing out here. What sort of, I guess, challenges have you seen in the work that you've done out in this community that directly involves Indigenous men mental wellness?
I think one of the unspoken challenges is, what does it mean to be a man?
Yeah.
Right? When you ask the average person that, everyone, we did a little bit of a poll in the past, and they were talking about physical strength.
So that's always the case, right?
Right.
It's the media, like what's your version of a warrior, and it's always your pop culture action hero mostly, right? So
to have healthy masculinity means, to be a healthy man, to take care of your family, to cherish your bride, continue to do positive things in your community, to help others, to be mindful, to be respectful. So when we teach holistic, healthy masculinity, that's the message we're trying to pass to men, to get rid of some of the stigmas of what it means to be a man in this day and age, so that we can have healthy children.
Yeah.
Right? We're unknown. We can't really tell in regards to how our children are going to do it, but when you are doing your absolute best to have healthy children, to support your future, to support your culture, to keep it all connected, I think that's what it is to be a healthy man.
Yeah.
No matter what your culture is. And I think that when you're given the opportunity to explore the Indigenous culture, and what they went through and what we went through, I'm just playing my part of being here, playing my part. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of mirroring that happens with looking towards Indigenous teachings for your own general healing, right? Like, and it's the thing that I love about our land-based teachings and about just Indigenous teachings in general is that it's just so, when you look into it, even the language, it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's just, it brings it right down to the bare bones of this is what you need to focus on if you want to heal, if you want to be that better version of yourself, right? But you see that mirrored in so many other religions. It's just so much more simplified, For
years, I was always pulled back into working with youth and working with, young men in the industry. And now that I host these 4 Elements retreats and seeing the connections that people make as adults, seeing the connections that people make from parent to child, and them calling it a community after spending 48 hours together, based on some of the teachings that they're learning, and how quick it happens. We have so much time to do this, to create a community like that, by putting people in a natural therapeutic environment, by having the right context of healing, of coming together as a community, and teaching society to be mindful, respectful. More people need to jump on board.
It's crazy. It really just is the initial hump of like whatever is holding you back from attending, in a retreat or attending a sweat. If you're invited to one, like that is such an honor to be invited to a sweat. But I see so many people that are stepping back from it because of fear, for one reason or another, for the conversation of blood quantum, or not feeling like they're worthy enough to be a part of this sort of culture, but it's crazy how much healing that can be happen once you get past that initial hump. And it's, you just give someone a safe space to experience what their child's self is again, right? I've seen so many people at these retreats, and you can see that click in their eyes when they realize that they are in a space
they found their moment.
Exactly, they found their moment.
Yeah.
They found their space that they've been craving as a kid for so long to feel safe, right?
Opportunity.
Yeah,
That's what I'm given. Opportunity.
Absolutely.
And let them find their own journey.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'll never forget the opportunity that I gave people. And then I walked around and asked 6 or 7 people, did you find your moment? And I didn't have to explain what I was trying to
Everyone
get
knew it immediately.
Everybody knew what it was.
Because there's just there's something that just washes over you. Right?
Gives me goosebumps right now when I say that.
Same. Because we've experienced it so many times with working with the community and seeing it in so many other people, right? And
yes.
It's the best way I can describe it is that sense of flow state, and you find that flow state in everything, right? You can find it in your work, you can find it in your favorite sport that you play. There's that moment where something just clicks off in you, all that anxiety is out the window, and you just focus on your immediate surrounding of being that best version. And you can find that in spirituality too, and you can find that in your healing. That's exactly what I've seen you offer to everyone that comes out to these retreats. Is there anything that you've experienced as far as successes that has helped create some specific tools that you use on a daily or like through your retreats that really helps break through that wall of fear, of anxiety, of whatever it is, to be more open and to be more vulnerable in regards to healing?
Especially for the men.
Yeah.
Because they're so stubborn.
Yeah.
In regards to coming to any kind of group. Right? There's a stigma around sitting around a table and having a group with men.
It's usually viewed as a weakness to sort of open up when you're a man, right? So
correct.
Yeah.
And I think for every man that has come to Four Elements, it's taken 2 or 3 times for them to make that decision to actually show up. Oh, I'll be there next week, or I'll be there, next time you have it. And for every man that have come, be like, this is not what I expected. I'll see you next week, or come again. Or they walk in and they see someone that they know.
Yeah.
Right? And I love to see that in them. I love to be able to have a little video to show that to men. Be like, this is the perspective of men, and this is the outcome when you come to one of these meetings, events, gatherings, right? That we have, that it's not what they expect.
Yeah.
So I always say to them, as I said to every young man that I've worked with, just give it an opportunity. You don't have to commit. Come once, give it an opportunity, see if it's for you. And every single one of them have come back.
Yeah. I think when you hear men's mental wellness group, I think one of the biggest stigmas is you just expect to be sitting in a circle for the entire time and talking about your feelings and stuff like that. And yet, yeah, that happens. But it's part of it. It's not the only thing that is that is given out at these retreats either. Like just like with Indigenous teaching, there's so many different avenues. There's so many different tools to be pulled from. It's not just talking about your feelings. It's connecting out in nature. It's finding your solidarity, your peace.
Yes.
And it's indulging in physical activities and community as well, right?
Yeah. To put it in context, we have axe throwing. We've done snowshoeing. We've done scuba diving. We sit around a fire. We cook our own food. We do some mountain biking. We've done archery in the past. There's no expectation for men to come every week. There's no expectation for men to sort of tell their story, or everybody comes from different levels of engagement, right? As I said in the past, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just to have a break of the week, right? Maybe a man wants to come and just sort of get a perspective from one of his peers about what he's going through, and then that's how they connect. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's many barriers, even as I won't say small, but as immediate as transportation to get here. Yeah. For men. To feel alone is a barrier, to not have someone to come with. Yeah. To feel judged, right? When we're talking about barriers, there's many barriers for men to commit to something like joining a mental health group. Mm-hmm. going around that stigma. And that's why we refer to it as mental wellness.
Yeah.
Allowing people to understand that nowadays mental wellness is so important to have balance, right? And just as important as physical wellness.
Yeah, well, and even on a mainstream standpoint, it's starting to become more and more understood, right? But the only reason it's getting to that point is because we're able to have conversations like this, right? The more people that are talking about this, the more it's being taken seriously. For instance, like, I love my parents to death, and you know, my Indigenous side, as I've spoken on the podcast before, but my Indigenous side came from my dad's side, and he was very disconnected from it. Growing up, we were also like, it took me up until the last 3 years for me to really fully step into my Indigenous identity. Before that, going through school, I was already getting bullied enough for being Asian and multicultural as well. To the idea to have my bullies know that I was also Native as well, terrified me at that time. And that's something that I was taught growing up by my parents, because they wanted a quote unquote better life for us now, right? But now that I'm starting to step into that myself, it's so beautiful to see my dad starting to take hold of that too.
Yes.
And also with me understanding my own mental health and talking about it. And, you know, sometimes coercing him into that conversation, whether he kind of likes it or not. You know, it's complaining can turn into talking about things that you probably don't want to talk about, right? But now he's starting to take that seriously too, and it really just, you really just have to have that conversation.
The words that your dad shared with me when he came to our retreat.
Yeah.
I feel it for the 48 hours that they were with me, like you guys were closer.
Yeah, absolutely. I could tell there was a breaking in his armor, and my mom's armor too. My mom is very old, traditional Asian lady. She doesn't talk about her feelings, but she was seeing them be a part of community for the first time in a very long time. That brought tears to my eyes. And I see that all the time with these retreats. There's those breaking moments for so many different people. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the special thing that keeps me going with this.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know everything about the Indigenous culture. I've learned so much since I've had the opportunity to be engaged in it and to explore more about my culture and my mom's side of the family's culture. And then I just fell in love with it. And I feel that, you know, I'm so happy that I get to pass that on to my own kids, being multicultural kids as well. And how they engage in it, and they love it.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing the younger generation take it more of a strong sense of identity with that. Is so beautiful to see. It's there's still a lot of hurdles to get through, but it's been a very, very long time since it's been this wildly accepted to be an Indigenous person or to be a person of culture, right?
You know, I work with Indigenous youth in the schools. And some of the challenges that they're facing are being able to fit in, being able to be accepted.
Yeah.
Right. It's unfortunate that discrimination still plays a role in schools, and I don't know if it's something that will ever disappear. But given them opportunity to be successful as well. Kids who are underprivileged, kids who are maybe come from broken homes.
Yeah.
Just giving them opportunities enough for me to stay engaged. It's enough for me to build healthy relationships with them. And when they have healthy relationships with adults in their life, that creates trauma buffers for them.
Yeah.
It only takes one person to make a difference in their life. Again, to have their moment. Say, you know, I want to stay connected with my culture. I want to, you know, stay in school. I want to be successful and have positive outcomes in life. So I play many roles in regards to being a role model in young men's life, young people's lives. And when you're in the human service industry, that's not something that you can take away. Like, that just happens automatically.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's such a privilege to work with such great young individuals. And that's what keeps me coming back, working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, regardless of what any child has went through in or outside of school, there's still so much potential to be had there, right? And finding your why with the men and with youth, it's so important, but they're so interconnected with each other too, right? Just like you said with proper role models, that the proper role models only come into fruition with healthy male figures in the community,
in their life. Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where 4 Elements comes into play.
Yeah.
Creating healthy males, creating healthy people into the young ones' lives.
Yeah.
And that's such a huge important focus that society should be on. Yeah. For anybody.
One of your phrases that still is buried into my brain from everything that I end up doing is that cross-pollination mindset. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and I learned that from someone else too.
Yes, the cross-pollination.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, with some with the challenges that you've seen, so the loss of identity, let's call it, the not knowing where to fit in, that sort of thing. Is there anything that you view as a useful tool to try and combat these issues at the school with the youth?
I've been working with Indigenous youth for, I've been in Alberta for 19 years.
Yeah.
And, when you're working with professionals in their life, they always say, Indigenous youth have identity crisis. And it's because, being not accepted in the public school system, things like that.
Yeah.
Even in society, they're sometimes ashamed of their culture.
Yeah.
And it's part of what creates identity crisis.
It's such a common thing, right? It's so heartbreaking to see how common it is from school to school to school.
And having the opportunity to have them stay connected to their culture through land-based teachings.
Yeah. Through school curriculum. Right?
Through school curriculum.
Yeah.
And you and I are going to be a part of that in the future.
Yeah.
It's such an honor and a privilege to allow them to stay connected to their culture through that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And personally, like on my own healing standpoint, that it's so beautiful to be a part of something like that has the public school system intergrained with it. Because growing up in central Alberta, Red Deer, there was nothing like that for me as an Indigenous child. There was no little ticky box to showcase that I was an Indigenous kid, let alone were there any sort of land-based teachings or anything like that. There was no culture there, right? So to be able to break that cycle is beautiful.
So on Thursday, maybe Friday, I picked my son up from school. No, this was Thursday because today's Saturday. Mm-hmm. I picked my son up from school and he came home with a Métis sash. And the education director at the time didn't know that he was my son. She later on that evening sent me pictures. And she said, "Your son, I didn't know this was your son. And he's such a beautiful child. He could have anything in the room that he wanted, but he chose a Métis sash. And he came home wearing it, and he came home proud to have it. And I put it on and showed him how to wear it and everything. And then the Indigenous educational director had texted me later on that evening and said, "This is the lessons that I learned from your son today." Right? And she sent me photos, and that was such a special moment for me, right? For him to want to engage in his culture and learning about it as well. And it's new to him too, right? And I'm proud to be able to pass that on to him and for him to be proud of it. Right? Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words right now. I had to focus the majority of that from not tearing up myself.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It shows that the healing goes on both ends, right? Like the from our youth, from our kids taking ownership over that identity that heals everybody. A story that still holds true, that still aches my heart with the work that I do, and is still something that I think on regularly when I'm helping the men in my program too and the boys in my program, is that before I came to the center, before you and I even met, I was a school photographer for the majority of the schools in central Alberta. And that's when I started fully diving into my own Indigenous identity and holding that true, given the fact I was at a lot of Christian and Catholic schools. It was my own personal joke to show up looking the way I did, just to see who I could irk immediately.
Yes.
The way that I dressed and stuff. So there was that. But at just about every school that I went to, because I was wearing my braids, I was wearing my colors, I would have counselors come up to me and ask me if I could speak to their Indigenous kids to tell them why I have my braids. And so every single school that I went to, there was a demographic of kids that were Native, that were terrified to show that, so much to the point where they cut their braids off because they were terrified of being bullied.
Right.
They were being bullied. They were having their braids pulled on. They were being called all sorts of different names, and they just wanted it to stop. And that's why they stopped indulging in the culture. And that was so unbelievably heartbreaking for me to see that every single school that I went to had that same issue going on.
I think as a community, we need to support men's mental health. They play such a huge dynamic role in healthy families.
Okay.
You know, I'm just reading a book now in regards to the absent father and the effects on daughters, and you know, having my own daughter and having 3 sisters, and I just think it's so important to promote men's mental health awareness and to support men's mental health awareness. And having the team that I had support me starting this program, like, I was overwhelmed, and they were all women. And they all wanted the same things: to have healthy men in their communities, to have healthy men in their relationships. And I'll never forget that. I felt so supported within my current role from my coworkers and the circle that was around me. And I think, you know, at times when it's becoming overwhelming, when you're doing this yourself, that kept me going. And again, we applied for more funding. We applied for more support. We've got some great collaborations and some great partners, and I'm just excited to see at different levels of support through municipality, through provincial, through federal, that we are receiving to continue this program of men sitting, talking about common challenges that they have in their life, recognizing that it's not just them going through it. And I think that's the biggest thing. And that's what sort of at times keeps them away, or feeling alone. But when they come, they create a community themselves. They open up themselves. I've learned so much, and to learn how to make myself vulnerable as being a private person, an introvert, and in social circles, and being the leader in this program, I've had to become vulnerable because that's what I'm asking men to do.
Yeah, you got to practice what you preach, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, you know, it goes to show that everybody is wanting this, right? From the women to the children, the whole family, the whole community is wanting more healthy men. I think especially when you look into our Indigenous population, the statistics that come off of reservations and all these different things that are being used against our people rather than just using that as a basis to look deeper into. I think that's that mindset of punishing people for, you know, what they've done in the past, or for them being hurt, for being fearful of wanting to open up, that doesn't help anything. And us as a society, we're more focused on the punishing rather than the rehabilitation right now, right?
And that's why our program is open to everybody.
Yeah.
Whether it be Indigenous or non-Indigenous peoples, it's open to everybody. Everybody's welcome. You know, in the Indigenous culture, the beliefs are everybody's interconnected, right? So we promote inclusion. We promote inclusiveness, and it's part of Truth and Reconciliation is teaching the non-Indigenous Indigenous ways.
Yeah, I think that's the true reason of why we have the Truth and Reconciliation movement now, right? Is to show that our culture is open, and it's not something to be straight away behind walls. That in itself is its own stigma, right? Of not being Native enough to indulge in this sort of culture, right? Not being Native enough to go to sweats or to go to round dances or anything like that. When really the general teaching is to be open with this and to share it with people.
Right.
Where do you lie in regards to the importance of Indigenous-based teachings and Indigenous-based community programs? And where do you see this moving forward?
If we want to continue to have inclusiveness in our communities, so everybody can be mindful and respectful, it is our future. We need to promote it more. And I feel that when you have, significant people engaged and involved in community wellness, dignitaries, band leaders, elders, knowledge keepers coming together as leaders and showing that to the younger people and to the youth and to the children, then it can only continue to grow, right? It can only continue to grow. I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of that, for my kids to be a part of that, and to be able to do that in the community that I'm in. Having the opportunity to do that is what I'm grateful for.
That's beautiful, man. And honestly, what you guys are doing here is it's such a beautiful spearhead of what needs to be pushed out to the rest of Canada, pushed out to the rest of Turtle Island. We, as a community, need to have more of a voice in regards to how this country is run. And that is being mirrored by so many different people within these different communities.
Yeah, and I think, we're sitting here talking about men's healthy masculinity and men's mental wellness. And I just want people to know that we support all mental wellness, but there's a lack of it for men in society. There's a lack of it for men in our own community. So I just want to say that, we've had 4 elements for women as well that you were, aware of and you were a participant in, and it's for everybody. But it's not something just for any singular demographic. We can apply 4 elements again to anybody, but we're focusing on men because that's the opportunity that was presented to me, and being and working on my healthy masculinity myself. I'm just grateful to be a facilitator. I'm grateful to be a leader in that demographic and to share the things that I am learning to make me a better person overall to people that are in my circle.
Yeah, your healing journey is just walking alongside with everyone else that's going through the same thing, right? So it's mental health as a movement has been such a bigger movement these days. It's beautiful to see what's being done to reconcile what has happened to the women in all of these different communities. I think there is still some catching up to do with the men, and we've seen that with this community, with Red Deer too. I see it in Central Alberta. There's just not enough for the men quite yet, but I think with programs like this, we're starting to see a shift in that a different tide that's coming through, right?
Yeah, man, we're making change.
Yeah,
and I'm so happy to be a part of it. Glad you're a part of it. I think we work well together.
I think so too.
I think the opportunities that you have given me to share to people, whether it be through, working together in person, or whether it be through some of the specialties that you offer in regards to audio, video, and photography and stuff like that. Like, those are the opportunities that you've given me to share expressions on people's faces, which plays a huge role.
Thank you so much.
I've never met anybody to be able to capture that like you capture that through the lens, right? Yeah, I'm serious.
You're gonna make me blush now.
Nah, man, that's good. That's what it takes, right? To have confidence in what you do and believe in what you do, and that's what I have, right? So I want to pass that energy on to people that are in my circle, and I'm happy to pass that energy on to definitely you, to our new friend. Yeah, man, totally, 100%.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And it's just the cross-pollination thing, right? You saw something in me that I didn't see at that time, and I'm so grateful to have met you during that time, because you honestly were the catalyst to everything that I'm doing now, and for me finding what my why was, right? So
I'll share a story in regards to when we first met. And I was sitting in a room with a coworker, and you came in. We were introduced through a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And that friend texted me later on that night, and I'm not sure if you know this story. She's like, Tyler expresses the healthy masculinity that was in that room when he walked in.
Yeah.
And that's what she texted me. And that's what we were striving to do in the moment. We were just getting started, to be honest with you. And it was kind of those words that were like, hey, we're on the right page. Like, I'd never met you before. And this is what you said based on the energy in the room when you walked in. And it was those words that kept me like, be like, yeah, this is worth, you know, all the struggles that I have to go through, and the people that are around me that were making this happen had to go through, and the hard work that it takes to put these retreats on. And it was those words that said, yeah, I'm on the right page. I'm going to continue to do this. Right.
Yeah.
So it's a real thing. That's the message I'm trying to pass to you.
Yeah.
It's a real thing when you create that energy around you, and it becomes contagious to others.
Absolutely. And it'll gravitate the right people towards you. Right. It's like, how many synchronicities, whatever you want to call them, just random occurrences that would have never have happened if you didn't put your own why out into the world of what you wanted to accomplish. Right. And yeah, just, I don't know how many times I can say this in one episode, but it's just cross-pollination.
Right.
It really just is. Yeah.
And, you know, I want to give the context around cross-pollination and what that means to us.
Yeah.
And how I learned it in regards to one of the facilitators and a good friend of mine that came and facilitated, and we walked and had a conversation in regards to, you know, Dominic, how are you doing? What are some things that are happening in your life? And he goes, the thing that, again, he learned is the term cross-pollination comes from pick the successes that are happening in your life and cross-pollinate that. And how are they being successful? What are you doing to make those things successful? And take those tools and those things that are you doing to make that successful and put it towards the life and the things in your life that you're struggling with. And that's cross-pollination, right? Yeah. And when you do that, it creates balance in all the areas of your life and all the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. And that's cross-pollination.
Right now. Yeah. Medicine wheel.
The medicine wheel.
And 7 sacred teachings. It all just
flows.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And it's just about finding that balance. That's, you know, it's everything on this planet, the only reason it's able to grow and it's able to create is finding that balance.
Continue to thrive and continue to try and find the balance. It may not be something you'll ever achieve, but the motions of trying to continue to find that balance.
Exactly. And understanding what can happen to you if you go too far on any extreme, right? You see that with our elements. You indulge in too much water, you drown. Too much fire, you burn yourself. But the perfect balance of both creates life.
Right.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for wanting to be a part of this series and what we end up doing next with it. And I'm so grateful for you in so many different ways outside of this podcast.
And I thank you, man.
Everything.
I thank you for the opportunity to be able to bring this to a broader audience. I thank you for the opportunity and the things that you taught me. So we're there together. All right. Appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
If anything during this episode of what we've talked about from what Dom's expressed in his stories has impacted you in any sort of unique way, please reach out in the comments below. We'd love to see what your experiences are, and it'll give us an insight to where this podcast needs to go next. So thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one. Hi.